guys, welcome back to the Indie Sooner. It is your boy JP, as always, the JP and Trav Show. And below me, we have my fellow co-host, Travis Skoll. Trav, how you doing today, man? Trav, I don't know if he can hear me. The earbuds must be going down. Can you hear me? No. Looks like we're having technical difficulties early in the show. Can you not hear me, Trav? I don't think he can hear.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, let me text him. Make sure we're good to go. All right, so obviously you guys know Trav. He's down below. We're gonna get him worked in here. But I'm excited to have a good friend that we've been in a couple conversations before. Been part of if I'm not mistaken, a Voice of College Football. You're on there a lot, talking about Oklahoma specifically. So Jason, and how you say your last name so I don't butcher it.
Ray.
Jason
Yeah.
Ray. Welcome to the JP and Trash Show, brother. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm a fan of you guys and have watched the podcast many times. So appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course, man. It's great to have you here, and we're excited to kind of get rolling. Trav, you back with us, man?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, bet we're in. Well, so I had my AirPods connected, and then
Yeah.
I went to go get on my phone, and then like with literally 2 seconds left in the countdown, like they cut out and connected my phone. I was like, oh my god, 2 seconds left in the countdown, but nope, I'm here, loud and clear. Jason, appreciate you being on with us.
Absolutely.
Let's get it going.
Yeah, I spent the first minute trying to. I was like, Trav, how you doing? And you just looked at the camera like.
Well, so I had moved off of the browser and was in my settings, so I guess I probably should have stopped my camera as well. But what you guys saw was me just going through my settings. So,
yeah.
But we're good now.
We're here. Hey guys, as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you share this on Twitter, share it on YouTube, so we can get more people in here for this conversation. Some of you are probably wondering why I'm the one wearing the bucket hat this week. My wife got me this for my birthday. It was on Monday, so I figured I've been influenced by Trav enough. Let me wear a bucket hat on one show.
I like it. Looks good on you.
Hey, I'm trying. Guys, we're going to start going through the offensive depth chart as we kind of head towards fall camp, the depth chart in general. But you guys said you want to start with offense, and then we did another poll just to see what position group you want to start with. So the top two were offensive line, wide receiver. So we'll do that this week, and then next week we will hit the quarterback and running back. Those ones are kind of foregone conclusion for the most part. But anyways, with that being said, let's just get right into it. Let's talk about the offensive line depth chart a little bit now. We have a couple returners in Anton Harrison and Wanye Morris, Andrew Rain, Chris Murray. Right, obviously Bray Walker, who's been there for it seems like 6 or 7 years. We have Savion Byrd, who also, is just a tackle that's kind of up and coming. He's going to be a redshirt freshman. People are expecting kind of a lot from him and seeing what he can do. We have Robert Conjol, who, has gotten some experience in the center position as well. And that kind of is who we have as returners for the most part. Then we have, is it Cade Matower? Is that how you say his name?
McCade
Matower, that came from California, where he's a 3-year starter and is kind of honestly expected to be plugged into that left guard position. But without further ado, and you guys in the comments, you guys can come on with us too and chat about it. We'll start with Jason, and then Trav, you can give kind of your opinion on who will be the day one starters when we get into fall camp. Who do you think is at the top of the depth chart in each of those positions? Jason, we'll start with you, man.
Yeah, I mean, JP, I think you mentioned it. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think from a tackle perspective, really like what Anton Harrison and Wanye Morris has done through the spring and some of the things that I've seen here early this summer. So I think going into fall camp, they're certainly, I think, your starters at both tackle positions, and I think Chris Murray is right now he's positioned himself in a good spot to kind of retain that. I know he was a little bit of a partial starter, started most of the season last year, but I think he's done a good enough job here early on, and you've got a lot of trust in him. And then I think you probably see McCabe Tower, kind of jump into that guard position, and then Andrew, and I think Andrew Rame at the center spot. And I think there's a big summer for Andrew Rame, right? I mean, he was. I think the knock on him, at least last year, was really kind of his strength at the point of attack. And so I know that he was injured a lot, wasn't super healthy in the spring. So certainly a big summer for him to get that strength to where it needs to be. And I think we all probably would agree that this is probably the linchpin of the whole offense, right? This is the area that Oklahoma we have to be really, really good on this side of the ball, because I think you hate to put too much pressure on one individual unit, right? But I think this is the unit if Oklahoma, if we're going to have a special year, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because at the skill position perspective, I don't really think we lose a ton from what we've had in the past, over specifically I know we'll get into the receivers, but the quarterback and running back position as well. So I think this group and the maturation that they have through the summer and what they're able to do early on in fall camp will be good to see just how good and how successful this offense can be.
Trav.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right in line with him as far as the just positions go. I think you've got pretty clear-cut starters. Andrew Rame and Robert Condrell are kind of the two that have traded out most due to injuries, and Condrell can play. So, but you really hope that Rame, who I think has every quality of a superstar, can make that work. So I'm gonna dive into a couple other points. I think Tyler Guyton, the transfer from TCU, 6'7", 235 or 325. Sorry, I'm a little I guess dyslexic, but yeah. So 6'7", 325 gives you a lot to like. TCU liked him. It's interesting because offensive line isn't a position where you see a ton of just rotation. I mean, as much as we gave Grinch crap about rotating out all of his players all the time and limiting their snaps, you don't really get that with offensive line. You need that cohesion as a unit, but really it's all about depth. Somebody that I really want to watch, two people. Bray Walker, obviously, before, and depending on what service you use, but before Caden Green was the highest ranked recruit that Bill Bedenbaugh had ever landed. And he's been a bit of a disappointment in Norman so far. Luckily for him, he's got a new lease on life, and he's got Schmitty to help with that. So one of the things that stood out to me when Schmitty first got there, he was running everybody through their workouts, and he wants every lineman to bench a certain amount. And Bray Walker was the strongest out of all the linemen. So I think with that, he gets a leg up on the competition a little bit. He's got just a little bit less to do to get, his body right, at least to where Schmitty wants it and where Bill Bedenbaugh wants it. So he's got the strength. It's just, can he put together the technique? Can he put it together mentally? Can he get that nasty, road grader, just violent, style that Bill Bedenbaugh is famous for? Another person I want to keep an eye on is Marcus Hicks. He's buried on the depth chart right now, but keep in mind, he's brand new to offensive line. he was quoted in saying, or he was quoted secondarily by his father, that he would have not played offensive line, would have not switched to offensive line for any other offensive line coach in the country. So I don't think he would have made that switch to be third on the depth chart for the rest of his career. I don't think they would have. I don't think Bill would have had him make the switch if he didn't have plans to move him up the depth chart a little bit. But again, this is a year where guys can get their bodies back. Obviously, the transfers might have a little bit of an advantage in that case, where they didn't go through Tybo and Zumba and whatever else they were doing. They were actually full-blown offensive linemen bodies and being trained like offensive linemen. I think where the depth will come into play a bit is when you look at Levy's style. Levy is very much a score from far, score fast, with the second highest pace in the country last year. They like to go extremely fast. That wears on your offensive linemen. So where that depth might come into play is they like to go fast and they like to score a bunch. But then when they get a lead, he leans on that offensive line to run the ball. He runs the ball in the second half a ton. And I know that's music to a lot of people's ears. So with that, you're running your offensive lineman ragged. You want to be able to plug in at least maybe one every series or one every two series or something, because a lot of the series in Levy's offense can go pretty quick. Reminiscent of the cries we used to hear of, we're scoring too fast. Lincoln's got to calm down. We're scoring too fast. This is ridiculous. Like, you might get those fans back. Those fans might have to dust off those old takes. But I'm sure they're willing to put them back out there. So, as far as starters, I think, like I said, I think we're locked in. Looking at it, I don't really see – nobody's going to take over the tackle positions. I don't necessarily see – I think center is the only place you could see some wiggle room maybe. But that's just because of, again, coming off injury, didn't get as much probably as many reps as Rame wanted and Condra wanted. So other than that, I think as you go inside the line, it gets more and more – or from outside in, it's the most secure, a little bit less, even though Murray, I mean, he's most offensive line starts returning, and I think he's got to have a big year. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, no, that's all good points for both of you. And I would probably agree, and I probably agree with this starting five right here for the offensive line. Anton at left tackle. I put Murray obviously at right guard where he was. Tower at left guard. Rame at center. I do think Rame has the most upside. I think all of us have always believed that. But Jason, as you alluded to earlier, was the strength component. Obviously, you want to hope that with Schmitty coming in, that's something that gets solved and he's ready in that way. But, Conjo can hold his own as well. And then Wanye, hopefully, we get to see the 5-star offensive tackle that we heard about so much when we got him from Tennessee, that he was going to – that's the guy that is going to make you win a national championship. I remember those takes too, that if they get Wanye Morris from Tennessee, they're national champion without a doubt. So,
it's still on the table. It's still on the table.
It is on the table, but we still want to see what he can do. Obviously, Tyler Guyton, like you said, Savion Byrd are two people that I think not that the tackle position, again, aren't locked down, like you said, Trav, but those are two people I think could push potentially if something were to happen. We know Anton has a ton of upside too, but as Gabe alluded to almost all year last year, he was just inconsistent a lot of times with his feet, inconsistent just with effort at times. Now, I think the effort thing's probably going to go away with who's at the top now. But again, I agree with both of y'all. Now, let me ask you both this question, and guys in the chat too, you guys feel free to come in on this. What do you think is the biggest position in need moving forward for the offensive line recruiting wise? I feel like we've seen a lot of tackles get picked up lately. Do you feel like we're where we need to be in the guard and center position? Do you both feel comfortable with who we have on the depth chart as it is, like a Colin Montgomery that I think he was part of the 2020 class, if I'm not mistaken, or Aaron Parks, etc. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I was just going to say, from my perspective, JP, I don't feel like the depth's where we need it to be overall, right? I mean, I just, not necessarily specific. I'm not avoiding your question, but not specifically from a position perspective. But I don't know that the depth's where we would love it to be from a championship caliber perspective, because we've talked about this. We've got, when you look at some of the two deep, you've got how much do you trust, at least right now coming in? Maybe this is different after we look at him in fall camp and early on. How much do you trust a Bray Walker coming in and playing, 25, 30 snaps a game? And then in a lot of these other, I mean, Robert Conjo played a lot last year, but he doesn't have the same athleticism that Rame has at the center position. I think we're comfortable with him playing, but you probably see Andrew Rame as more of an upside. So I think depth, and then Savion Byrd, I've heard really, really great things about him early on. I know Bill loved him last year, but was just really kind of raw. I mean, can he make that next step here? But outside of those, three guys, I don't know that the depth is really where we would like it to be at this point. So I think across the board, just upgrading that talent. And I know that we've started to do that so far, with this recruiting that apparently was dead in June, but now is up and alive in July. But no, I think all across the board, just kind of upgrading the talent and having guys that fit in Levy's scheme, as well as what Beanbo likes to do as well with his offensive line. But with that, but I think part of it remains to be seen just a little bit with, I think maybe no other position group is going to benefit from Schmitty more than the offensive line. So
yeah.
I think that kind of, I mean, it remains to be seen how that development happens over this year and in the next couple of years as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no position group that benefits from Schmitty more than the offensive line. I think we saw that last year. You need big bodies. We need to be able to push people off the ball. And I suppose going forward, I would look at the guard position. Currently at right guard, we have Chris Murray, and he's a stud. I love the guy. And then behind him, we've got Bray Walker. Now, those two guys are on their last year. So while they're a strength this year, like Drew says, going forward, it's definitely a position you've got to look at. I do like Josh Bates coming up at center. I'd like to be 3 deep at center as well. But Bates is the number 1 ranked center in the class. Seems to continue to be getting better, rising in the rankings. I think he'll take another rise in the rankings. But I know center is what makes the whole thing work. That's why the offensive line was so good under Creed Humphrey. And, it's and one thing, if you say Creed Humphreys on your show, please stop. It's Creed Humphrey. I some of my most beloved YouTubers, content creators, keep saying Humphreys, but I'm not calling you out. It's Humphrey. So that's part of what made that line so good. And I think what will be interesting is going away from a scheme that is so reliant on guards pulling on the side to side motion. I mean, Levy has talked about how he wants his guys going downhill. He wants straight line. So it'll be interesting to see how that recruiting works. Obviously, the offensive linemen that we've spoken to, even on Spaces or in other platforms, have talked about how Levy and Bill Beatonbow were there together talking about the scheme, how strictly fitting the scheme and these kind of things. I think maybe that's what might have happened in the offensive line of the past with Benny, is they got so focused on needing to move from side to side quickly that they lost track of needing monsters to just road grade. So like I said, looking at the depth chart, I think guards is where we need to kind of pick up recruiting a little bit. But you can never have enough good tackles. You never have enough good tackles. Just bring them on. So, I think if we miss out on Peyton Kirkland, then we will go into the transfer portal again and land somebody else. And here's the thing. it's so much easier to go into the transfer portal and land somebody in an offense that lets you go out and hit somebody, doesn't have you doing all this stuff, but then also that runs a ton of snaps because you need depth. So these people are going to play, in the second string, if you will. The backups are going to play because you do not want to run your offensive linemen into the ground by making them play, an insane amount of snaps. So you get into the second. So it's just going to be easier to get transfers. So yeah.
Gotcha. What's up, Bu? How you doing, man?
Yo, Buford. What's up, man?
Good to see you, Buford Halton in the chat. Grayson Halton's father. Good dude. Hey, let's continue to move down the depth chart to wide receiver. Now, wide receiver is a position that a lot of people felt like the Sooners were going to be decimated at just from who we lost, and I think again that's reasonable. I think that's a reasonable take if you're outside looking in, because we did lose Mario Williams, we did lose Jaden Hazelwood, almost lost Theo Weiss, obviously didn't. I believe Cody Jackson's in the portal still. Has he ever said he's going anywhere? I don't.
Not that I've seen.
Okay. And I don't know if he ever said he's coming back either. Did we see anything about that? He just
he's gone.
He's gone. Okay. So again, you look at that. We lost a huge chunk of our production from last season. Obviously, we get Marvin Mims back, who was the biggest chunk. But we're missing some of those other receivers that did provide some starts for us last year. However, knowing what we know, I think that the wide receiver group is one of our potentially strongest positions from what we did in the transfer portal, and again, getting Theo Weiss back as well, letting Marvin Mims be back again, and Drake Stoops, to say nothing of him and his consistency. I think that you can look at the wide receiver room and really like what you have here. So again, let me just start with Trav, and Jason, you can give your crack at it. Who do you have as your kind of opening day starters, or your top three wide receivers? I would say if you want to do the X, Y, Z, we can do that. But if you'd rather just say, hey, here are the guys I think will be on the field the most, that's okay too.
Just for some housekeeping in the comments, yes, Cody Jackson went to Houston, and yes, we still have Trayvon West and Brian Darby on the roster. Hopefully that clears some things up. LV Bunkley Shelton is one of the transfers. You can just see LVBS in the comments. Save yourself some typing. We know who LVBS is. And then obviously Javian Hester, or JJ Hester, out of Booker T. Obviously, Booker T's had a lot of Oklahoma players throughout the years. Most currently, obviously, Gentry Williams. And Gentry is probably the most excited person on the team that Hester's coming. He had nothing but incredible things to say about him. So with that being said, the starters seem pretty, obvious almost to this point. But Theo Weiss, you've got to have in there. He has apparently looked fantastic coming off injuries. He's just bigger, stronger, good catch radius, good feet. Almost a possession type. He can make stuff work, as we saw at Baylor, as we saw at in the Florida game, which everybody did anything they wanted in the Florida game. So that's why I included the Baylor game. Mm-hmm. But he shows the ability to take that hard first step and make somebody miss if he has to. From all accounts, he's had a fantastic spring. So I think he's got one position locked up. Marvin Mims is the most obvious call, former freshman All-American. And, sweet. Just got a confirmation email from Mr. Toby Baldwin. Looks like we got the offensive lineman hooked up with some fishing and conservation deals. So if you're going to be out at Lake Eufaula on the 29th of this month, you might see some offensive linemen. So anyways, the easiest would be Marvin Mims, former freshman All-American. Didn't get the ball as much as he should have last year, but still was able to put up a decent campaign with what he was able to work with when he did get the ball thrown his way. And then I'm going to go with who everybody's saying is the money receiver on the team. Best receiver through spring. He catches everything. If you need 2 yards, he gets you 3. If you need 11 yards, he gets you 12. Drake Stoops. Drake Stoops is locked into that third position. He's carving out a nice role. He might end up being that, Wes Welker type, something like that. So just sure-handed. We saw him, get his number called in big moments, last year, and I think it's going to continue. So those are my 3 that I'm going with right there.
Yeah, for me, I mean, when you look at Theo Weiss and Marvin Mims, I think those are certainly your 2 bona fide, best returning pass catchers. Absolutely loved the way Theo Weiss looked in the spring game. Caught that long ball early from Dylan Gabriel. He looked like he was moving around very well. Love Travis's analysis right there. I mean, he's kind of possession receiver-esque. He has the ability to, kind of break some tackles and run after the catch, but I think he's probably as close as a possession receiver that this team probably has. And then
I'm gonna jump in real quick because I don't want people in the comments to take possession receiver as an insult.
Oh, not at all.
I mean, so I was obviously a Vikings fan, hence the skull in my name. The Randy Moss, Chris Carter years, Chris Carter was all possession receiver. Third down, you go to him. He's going to be at the sticks. He's going to be at the sideline. He is going to get you that first down. Moss is over the top. I mean, there's not a DB that could catch up with him and not a quarterback that could overthrow him. So when we say possession, we definitely don't mean it as an insult. It is a valuable thing to have on your roster. You have to have possession receivers on your roster.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead, bro.
No, you're good. No, absolutely agree. And then, for the third wide receiver, I think the competition early on in fall camp is going to be very, very interesting between Jalil Farouk and Drake Stoops. Absolutely agree with everything that you mentioned. Probably the best route runner on the team, best hands on the team. Obviously, he's not he's not going to bust a ton of long ones, ton of 70, 80 yard, but he's super, super dependable, knows where to be, and he's a kid that you think will absolutely thrive in Levy's offense. So could see that going either way. I thought I would probably give the slight lean to Drake as well. But Jalil Farouk will absolutely be part of that. But I think the one thing that's interesting about this team is just looking how does JJ Hester, how does Bunkley Shelton, how does Jaden Gibson factor into the 2D into the 2D. Jaden Gibson played had that really, really long reception in the spring game as well. He has the build, he has the body type that Levy loves in his offense. So will be interesting to see how ready he is to be a contributor early on, a part of this team. So I think that'll be interesting just to see how that kind of shakes out in terms of the depth chart here in fall camp.
Yeah, you bring up a great point on the transfers. The depth chart was kind of, it was light, no doubt about it, but it was predictable. And the snaps were kind of predictable. Obviously, you have your top 3, and then like Jaden, Jaleel, Brian Darby, Trayvon West, some combination of those would be, in that second line of defense. But, instantly, I put JJ Hester and LBBS, fighting for snaps. I think they are each at worst second on the depth chart, each one of them, because they're big, strong, fast. JJ is smoking fast. Mm-hmm. So he was down in the 4.4 range recently. His trainer told me. So it's there's a lot to like about this. And again, like I said, with the offensive line, a lot of stats, a lot of tempo. Pedal to the metal. So depth matters. Depth matters on offense for just, not running your guys into the ground. Obviously, depth matters on defense. It matters everywhere. Don't get me wrong. But in Levy's specific style, it matters a little bit more than somebody who runs a little bit slower paced offense.
Yeah, agree. And I think one of the things I'm really interested to see exactly how Levy utilizes Eric Gray. Is he a guy? Obviously, he's not necessarily factoring into the depth chart here, but how often is he split out wide? I can see a situation where he catches 30 to 35 balls, just whether it's out of the backfield or kind of split out wide in the system.
Yeah. No, I agree with both of you. I think most people obviously have Mims and Weiss as their top two, and then that third, most people I've even talked to have said it's a toss up between Stoops and Farouk, depending on who you like. I agree with you guys. I think Drake Stoops has, and I don't know who I was listening to say it, but I was watching. I don't know if it was a highlight video or something the other day, and it was one of his catches, and somebody said, maybe it was a broadcaster just said, Drake Stoops has gone from, it was during the spring game. He said Drake Stoops has gone from a great story to a legit bona fide, very good player. Like, I think
2-star. 2-star.
Yeah. I mean, he's become one of the most reliable receivers that we've had in a long time. And I'd like to think he could turn into a Wes Welker, Hunter Renfrow type, and even potentially have a shot at the league, moving forward. So he's made some competitive, tough catches as well as can be that third down and short guy. I do want to know from each of you, and Trav, I'll start with you just because you know a little bit more about J.J. Hester, correct? Was he from the Tulsa area?
Yeah, he went to Booker T, and obviously went to Missouri. I believe he was in the 2019 class, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways,
tell people what we should know about. Like, let's just act like we know nothing about J.J. Hester. Some people in the chat, maybe they just got here. That they knew about J.J., like they heard the name, but they don't know anything about him, his recruitment, what he did at Tulsa.
Let me see. I'm gonna go to his trainer's text message we exchanged to see what he had said when we were talking about it. But he said, I'll read the whole conversation. So, Hester's in Norman today. Love to see you. He said, yes, they're high on his board. Would be dope to get him and LVBS. He said, I need OU to feature him. No more waste time, no more time to waste. He said, yeah, it'll be pretty open in the new system. Mims and Weiss are the only established ones. And Levy loves his height. He said, right, OU does not have a guy like JJ on that roster ready to go. When JJ decides to turn it on, he's scary. He's got elite speed, and he's a 4.4 guy at that size. And so that was –
What's his height? What's Ozzy?
He is 6'2", 6'3", something like that. He's 6'3".
Yeah.
So I mean, Luther Burden aside, Missouri is not where you go to get featured in an offense to put up big wide receiver numbers. Maybe that's not why Luther Burden picked the school. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's very much, he's got great hands. He can move his body in the air. I only personally saw him play once at Booker T. But it's one of those things. I know we've been watching a lot of bummy 2A video lately, but he makes plays where he flashes and you're like, okay, this guy's obviously a D1 talent. Like RSJ was the exact same way. Jaden Rose the same way. When you walk out there and you just look at them, it takes you 2 plays to be like, that's the best player on the team. And that's how it was. Even in a time with Gentry coming up, Booker T's always got athletes, just tons and tons of athletes. They got a bunch of people in professional ball. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, Miles Tees, of course, the older brother of Arkansas-bound Micah Tees, obviously played for that team as well. But he's definitely one of those get off the bus type guys. Like when he gets off the bus, you're like, oh, that's a receiver. Okay, yeah, we're gonna need to watch his tape. So couldn't be couldn't be more excited to have him, especially to help with Tulsa ties. I mean, for those of you that were on the internet anytime around the Cole Adams commitment or the Micah Tease commitment, it's or the Dax Hill commitment or the Josh Proctor commitment or the Luke. Well, anyways, bunch of Tulsa guys are leaking out of the northeast border of the state, whether that be into Fayetteville or whether that be to Ohio State or Michigan or Alabama or anything like that. And I can't stress the importance of having Tulsa kids be successful at OU. Patrick Fields, I wish I could tell you how much Patrick Fields did for OU recruiting in the city of Tulsa. The guy is huge here. Held a massive Juneteenth event for a lot of the former athletes, big softball game. He's very active in the community. There's not a single person that's got a bad word to say about him. And that's important. You kind of need that elder statesman, if you will, to hail from your city that you can look up to and say, hey, what's it like in Norman? Oh man, come. Every time I went to, game with Gentry or anything, we always hung out with Pat afterwards. Pat's the OG. So somebody else has to take those reins, right? Whether that's JJ, whether that's RSJ, whether it's J-Row, whether it's Gentry. The more Tulsa kids you have on the roster at the time, the better you will recruit the future of Tulsa. That's pretty easy to figure out. Yeah. And yes, Jamie says, I'm a Tulsa guy. I feel like it's an OSU town. The southern part of the state is OU territory. I agree. It's interesting driving around and seeing, OSU has a campus here. OSU has medical stuff. They put a lot into hiring OSU grads. You see hire OSU grads billboards like all over the place. And OSU fans, they wear their orange every Friday. So you may think, like, when you're just walking down the street, you're like, man, this is a lot of orange. Well, everybody not wearing orange might be OU fans, but you would never know because we don't wear red on Fridays. Arkansas and Stillwater are obviously closer to Tulsa than Norman is. So as Norman, turns its view to the south to take the Dallas kids, and I definitely don't want to say stop recruiting Dallas kids. Don't get me wrong there. But Tulsa's not as populated with talent as Dallas is, but you're going to naturally have that just based on size and population of Dallas. It's not any knock on Tulsa kids. It's just that there's less of them because there's less people. Anyways, that's a little bit of a rant on JJ Hester and his importance going forward.
I like it. And then Jason, I'll give you a second. Anything on LV Bunkley Sheldon? Any research you've done that people should know about him if we have no idea who he is? Just talk to us like that.
Yeah, I mean, he had pretty successful season last year. Arizona State, 33 catches, I think over 400 yards, a couple of scores. Not quite as tall as JJ. I think he's 5'11", 195. And again, just reiterate kind of the same comments that Trav made a little bit ago about possession receiver. It's not in the negative light, but I think he's probably more of a possession receiver than you would see out of JJ Hester as more of kind of as more of a speed guy. But I think he's just the same situation as JJ Hester. I think he's a guy, for me, at worst, he's second team on the depth chart, and have heard really, really good things about him in the summer overall. So I think he's a guy that's certainly going to impact us this year in a very positive way. I know that we were all excited about Mike Woods, and Mike probably, admittedly, probably didn't have as big of an impact as he would have liked to have had last year. But I think LV Bunkley is really kind of in that same mold in terms of has the opportunity to make a big impact for us this year at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how we talk about I guess just the narrative around certain players. We have seen the name Mario Williams on top whatever receiver list, top receiver duos with him and Jordan Addison. We've seen him thrown in our face on big time schools that we or big time players that we miss, and we're going to miss Mario Williams. I wish Mario Williams nothing but the best, but LVBS had damn near the exact same stat line.
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 less catches. He had, he had 40 more yards. He didn't have as many touchdowns, 2 to 4. But at the same time, like at a certain point, if you have the same amount of catches, same amount of yards, the touchdowns, it's where you're being thrown to, whatnot. So it's amazing to me because we didn't get that fanfare whenever LVBS came to Levy's offense, and he's in the same offense that Mario Williams is in the same offense he was last year. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. So I just wanted to point that out, that LVBS had Mario Williams-esque season. So be as excited about him as you would be about Mario coming back for another year.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a lot. Maybe more. I don't mean to sell him short.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, I don't want to spend too much time, and this is a dangerous topic. I'm just going to warn you. We could spend a lot of time on it, but just like 5 minutes, because it's such a hot topic. Archanon, okay. Now, what's true, what's not? Let me get my little open-end soliloquy, and I'm gonna let y'all jump in. So, for those of you who don't know what Archanon is, it's basically about Arch Manning, right? He is right now rated as the 3rd ever one in recruiting history, along with Vince Young and Quinn Ewers, and he's obviously committed to the University of Texas. Now, Arch Manning plays at a 2A school in Louisiana. And why do I say that? Doesn't matter what level of competition you play against. Somewhat, yes, but it's more about his tape that's kind of out there that people are talking about. When you play that level of competition, your stat line should be better. Your tape should be better. When he's played good competition, his stat line hasn't looked that great. And so we're not saying he's the worst quarterback in the world. He's not talented at all. That's obviously not true. Obviously, he is a Manning, so his name does mean something. It even means something in terms of like he can dissect. I think he should be able to dissect defenses because who his uncles are. Like he's studied. He's been raised up that way. However, if we're going to sit here and say that he is on par with being one of the best recruits of all time, that's not true. It's unrealistic. Like Mike Farrell said, he's the one getting reamed for it because he's probably the biggest name that's even said it. If he had the last name Smith, he would not be a 5-star, let alone a 1. So that's kind of what this is about. I'll let Trav take over a little bit, and then Jason, you can get a little piece in there too.
Yeah, I think specifically Texas fans need to consider that if we don't say he's a perfect 1.0000 commit, if we say that he's not that, we are not saying that he doesn't deserve to play college football, or that he's not good enough to play college football, or that his uncles weren't good, at the same school. Like, that's not what we're saying. So if you could admit that, he might be a top 50 player, fine. We can find some common ground, but the reality is there's nobody that can watch the tape and say that he's the perfect rating. But the problem is, do recruiting rankings take into the fact having a Manning on campus is good for recruiting? It's good for donors. It's good for Steve Sarkisian. Do you think if Steve Sarkisian goes 5-7 again this year, he gets fired? Because I think pre-Arch he would have. But I don't think now that he's got Arch coming, he does. Correct. So that's I think I'm going to try and give the recruiting sites a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on this, like just a shiver of it, because I'm going to assume they mean that the total package of the recruit, what that's off field, that's brand, that's all that, could possibly have the impact of that high of a ranking. That's the only way that you can get there, because if you're watching the tape, if you're watching him throw into triple coverage, if you're watching him, I mean, the rounds are him throwing at a Clemson camp last year or whatever, and throwing a dime against no defense. And everybody's like, oh, where are the Arch Manning haters now? They have, like, it's a new rule they're starting this current year that they will actually have defenses on the field, like full defenses, not 7-on-7, anything like that. So, it's a thing where the kid's talented. Everybody says his football IQ is off the charts, but I saw him throw into double and triple coverage all game in some of that tape. So the fact remains is if you hand out his tape with no name, he's not a 5-star. But if you factor in the effect he can have on your program, maybe he's a 5-star. So what are the rankings trying to do?
Yeah.
Are the rankings measuring on field, or are they measuring impact? Because his impact can't be understated. I mean, Steve Sarkisian could go 5-7 and say The Eyes of Texas is a dumb song, and they'd be like, don't care, got Arch. Because you're seeing those tweets, right? Don't care, got Arch. If you search that on Twitter, you will find don't care, got Arch.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more with everything that you said, Trav. Here, I mean, I think it has to be the total package, and it's not a big part of me, but a small part of me just really feels bad for the kid because he's never going to be able to live up to the hype, to the ranking, to whatever the expectations are that he's going to have the minute he sets foot on that campus. And so, I mean, certainly you don't feel too terribly bad for him, but I think at the same time, like I said, he's never going to live up to what fans, media, donors, anybody within those walls of that program thinks that he's going to be. So, and we've all seen the tape. I mean, Texas fans, to your point, Trevor, they're going to try to spin it maybe in a different direction, right, based on what you're seeing. But in terms of throwing into triple coverage, in terms of in the championship game, throwing for 47 yards. What was he for? Like 6 for 18, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's great. I think it's great for us, right? I mean, it's incredibly positive for Oklahoma. I think we all feel with Jackson Arnold that we've got a much, much better product on the field. I mean, look what he did at Elite 11, right? I mean, and look at the fact that, Arch, I think, Trav, you mentioned in a couple of, if you did a minute ago, one of the last podcasts on here, just about the fact that Arch doesn't go to any of these camps. Like he doesn't go throw anywhere, right? So, and there's a reason why he's not throwing, because of people, a lot of these guys come and see him, they're going to realize that maybe he's not, this perfect 5-star recruit that we've seen, or that what the recruiting effort lead us to believe without the other package. But he's going to bring some kids with him. Obviously, it's already happened. He's going to continue to bring some kids just to say that they playing with him, Manning. So I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's something that's obviously positive for Texas. But what they've struggled with over the last 5, 10, even since Mac was there, they've found a way to do less with more talent than any program in the country. And so, and it wasn't too dissimilar last year with Sark. And I think you're exactly right, Trav. No matter what the record is, I mean, if he throws out an 0-12 for whatever reason, I mean, that may cause for some concern. But I think no matter what, I mean, they're gonna ride with him and see what they're going to have with him. And I think it'll be interesting to watch next year, right? I mean, depending on what kind of year yours has, does Arch day one, do they dare not throw him out there day one?
No, Ewers is 10 times the quarterback that Arch is, and I'm and it's funny because Texas fans will call me biased against Arch, but I think Quinn Ewers is really good. Watch him throw, watch him play against good competition and tear him up. I mean, Quinn's a really good quarterback, probably deserving of that ranking. And people want to bring up, well, it's other players played against small schools and look how they turned out. Yeah, but they were head and shoulders above their competition. And I'm not talking height, because I get he's head and shoulders technically above all of his competition. But I mean, somebody tried to say Derrick Henry the other day. They're like, well, Derrick Henry didn't play against good competition. Derrick Henry was rushing for like 400 yards a game or something like that. Like it was like if you want to look at stat lines that are the craziest stat lines you've ever seen, go after the podcast, of course. Google Derrick Henry's senior season rushing stats. It is absurd. So, yeah, guys like that weren't even rated as a perfect group. Guys like that. But this guy who isn't tearing apart his competition. Oh, he's got nobody good. Yes, OBJ went to the same school as Arch. Not sure what that means, but I guess OBJ's family was rich enough to pay $27,000 a semester, get a scholarship to go and play football because I guess he was really good. Actually, he's probably playing soccer at the time, if I'm not mistaken. He's a big time soccer player. But regardless, you can't be like, oh well, OBJ went to that school. Okay, what about all the other hundreds of kids that went to the school that weren't NFL, prospects, whatever? I mean, and OBJ wasn't a perfect recruit either. That's my biggest beef is what has he done to earn the perfect ranking? That's fine. The perfect ranking. Have him as a 5-star. I don't give a shit. The perfect ranking is rarefied air. And he just ain't hit. He doesn't pop off the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you guys more. I mean, it's just we'll let Texas fans do their thing, and they want to believe that everybody, it's their brand. I saw a Texas fan say today, notice how he did the Brian Windhorst. Why do we think that is? Why do we think it is that people are coming against Arch Manning? Because he committed to Texas. That's why. He thinks Texas is the reason people are having this conversation because they have such a superiority complex. And I don't want to get into that. Like I said, we've already gone over time on that conversation, but it was good. Hey, let's move on to our game, this or that. We started to play this every week. It's fun, especially fun to do with the new guests we have on here. You have 3 new questions every week just to, say which one are you going to choose, this or that. Kind of give a 30 second to a minute dissertation, if you will, on why you would choose that. And here we go. If you had to choose one game between the 2011 Red River Blowout or the 2012 Red River Blowout, which one was your favorite? Or which one did you enjoy more? Jason, we can start with you.
Wow. I think at this point I'm trying to stricken everything from the memory of 2012 just because of how tainted I felt it was, but I think it's hard to surpass that 2012 that 2012 game. I'm sorry, I misread the question. I'm thinking 2022, 2021, sorry. But I think that 2012 was really, really good. Was a really, really great it was a great atmosphere. I was actually there at that game, so I think it was was, for me personally, it was a little bit more exciting just being there and being part of that game. I think that was one of the first games that I was actually went to the Red River game live, so I would have to go with 2012. Sorry for my misreading of the original question.
You're good.
You're good. What's funny is you're at 2012. That was one of the years I missed. I've been to 10 of them, but 2011 was the year I actually made it. So I, by default, have to go with the one that I was actually at. It never gets old beating up on Texas, but it's. I would love to get back to blowing them out on back-to-back occasions, but. The 2011 was was Landry Jones going for 3 touchdowns and 3 touchdowns and throwing the ball 50 times or whatever. That was a quintessential Landry Jones game. But no, it wasn't 2011. I know that much. But yeah, I think, and this is a rare occasion where we have different answers on this or that. Usually it's all the same answers. So maybe it's because I often go first, and I feel like I bully people into agreeing with me sometimes. But yeah, I'm going 2011 personally for me. JP, what about you?
I probably have to go 2012. I remember both. 2011 was nice because, as you guys probably remember, and I don't. 2011 is hard for me personally too, just because if you guys remember, we were preseason #1 that year. We had Land Sharks, what they called themselves on defense: Tony Jefferson, Travis Lewis, dogs, right? And Landry, for as great of a quarterback as he was, he could never really win the big games. And so, anyways, that year was great. But the next year, when it was supposed to be a little bit more even, and we were number 13, Texas 15, Texas fans running their mouth, and I was a sophomore in high school at this time. This is pre JP days. I'm not on Twitter like that at all, but I'm just talking to people I know in my family that are Texas fans. They talk a mess, and just to be able to sit there and watch us beat the brakes off of them, 63-21. Trey Miller doing his thing, Zach Sanchez get a pick six, right? All those things happening and seeing the whole bowl. Obviously, I'm in Indianapolis watching. I'm seeing the half of the bowl just gone at halftime. That was beautiful. I mean, you can't make that up. It was beautiful. It's in my mind. It's a great memory of mine as a young Sooner fan, as a teenager, 15-year-old, getting to see that. Now, I can't wait to go to one personally. I have never been. I need to come. I wanted to come last year. Couldn't make it happen. I don't know. I'm still talking about this year. I got a brand new baby girl, so I got to let the wife make a decision on that one. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about meeting Travis, West Virginia. So, we will see what happens. But I will, yeah, anyways, that was probably my favorite one. All right, next question. And this is a really interesting one. So we talked about Arch a little bit, okay? Let's talk about his uncles. Peyton Manning and Eli Manning went to Ole Miss and Tennessee, respectively. Peyton Manning went to Tennessee. Eli Manning went to Ole Miss. So I want you to put yourself in the Manning household. If you had the opportunity, because we're just leaving Texas out of this thing, if you had to go to Ole Miss or the University of Tennessee, which one would you choose? And don't think of it currently. Think of it back then in the 90s when both of them went to their respective schools. Which one would you have preferred to go to?
I'd still go Tennessee. I mean, just that home crowd. We saw it with Baker's coming out party as he shushed them all after Shep took the hurdle on the sideline. I'd go Tennessee just because if you can get that stadium rocking and actually, I don't know, put a ranked team on the field, it will be rocking. So I don't think it takes much for them to sell the place out and to be loud. So I think I love the checker mark, the checker mark orange and white. They've actually won a national championship, which Ole Miss claims they have, but it's some of those that were like in the 40s or something like that nobody really recognizes. But yeah, Tennessee, you've won a national title. Your home fans are incredible. Not that Ole Miss fans are bums or anything like that, but Tennessee really shows out. And then obviously currently I'd go there because Josh Heupel would make sure that I'm in the NFL because he's the only out of the pace that Levy ran last year, it was the second fastest offense in the country. Heupel's was number 1 in Tennessee. So what could have been, right? What could have been?
What could have been?
That's right.
Good thing we fired that guy and hired Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
I'd go Tennessee as well. And this is not a bully response. I was and you guys, I'm terrible with dates, obviously, by the answer of my last question. But 2017 was when Oklahoma went to Knoxville. Is that right?
2015.
2015. Yeah. So I was actually I was there in person for that game. Had the opportunity to go. I've been to Red River. I went to Notre Dame when OU played Notre Dame as well. Was no question was a very, very hostile environment, a rabid environment. And Tennessee they've not gotten back to that where they were in the 90s, and that fan base, they were doing everything that they could to will that team to a win. I mean, so I had mad respect for the environment for playing in there, and obviously the way Oklahoma was able to come back when they were didn't look good, right? Specifically, for the first 3 quarters. But yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee would be the for me the unquestioned choice there.
Yeah, I'm orange. Oof.
I'm gonna go against the grain here. If I really would like to choose Tennessee, but in the interest of not having all the same question or the same answer, my dad was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I still got family in Mississippi, so I would actually go to University of Southern Mississippi if I'm going by that. But
Brett Favre.
I have a cousin that's going to University of Ole Miss. That grew up in Hattiesburg, just graduated last year. So I'm gonna take the cop out, say it's a family thing. I would go to Ole Miss and go Rebs. Nah, I'm playing. I would do Tennessee. I would. I don't like Mississippi. I rock with them a little bit because I got family there. My dad was born there. But other than that, I don't like the state. So I would definitely do Tennessee. I think that stadium is unreal, especially on the river, and just being able to watch that game and get to learn a little bit about the Tennessee culture and fan base and everything like that. And some of them are crazy, but it's okay because they're passionate about their university. So I like those answers, guys. Seems like a lot of people in the chat would rather go Tennessee too. All right, last but not least, we always got to have a food question. Trav brought some steak on here today. So, I'm going to make this. I chose what I feel like are the 2 correct answers, but I will give an other. So, if you had to get a steak cooked, would you choose medium or medium rare? And if you don't like either of those, which I believe are the 2 ways you should cook a steak, then you can choose another one. That's okay too.
Go ahead.
You can let me go first. All right. Yeah, medium rare, no question about it. For me, I mean, that's naturally the way that you should eat steak. So I'll make it short and sweet, medium rare.
Medium rare.
Let's like it.
My guys,
I saved a bite. Just in case, because last week I didn't have a flat to show everybody how to get the bone out, but we're going medium rare. If it is a fillet, I will do rare because you don't have a lot of fat to cut through or anything like that. And you can really, those thin slices, just fantastic. But, I mean, you're really cooking it to kill all the germs and everything like that. It's not blood on the inside, anything like that. It's myoglobin. It's medium rare is the way to go. I could understand doing it a heavy fat steak. Maybe getting it to medium if you're feeling froggy, but medium rare is really as high as it should go. Less than that on, like I said, on a fillet or on a really, really lean cut. For those of you that don't know, I'm on a carnivore diet right now. So, I eat nothing but meat. So, beef, seafood, poultry, but poultry doesn't have a ton of fat on it. So really ribeye is the name of the game. This is a strip that I'm eating right now, but made a bunch of beef jerky. Got that going on. I'm eating a bunch of steak. Absolutely love it. So.
Yes, I would personally go medium rare as well. I agree with both of you. I'm glad you both are reasonable human beings. And I'm proud of the majority of people in the chat as well. As they by and large chose medium and medium rare. That's what I felt. Now, I'll tell you guys a quick story, and then we'll get on here. One of the first times Trav and I ever interacted was a couple of years ago, and this is when we were first starting to get to know each other. I messaged him because I had to ask him a question. I was at St. Elmo's in downtown Indianapolis, one of the better known steakhouses in the Midwest in general, pretty famous for their shrimp cocktail. Okay, so they have this devour menu that they do in Indianapolis every September they have, it's to highlight the restaurants in the area essentially. So they give you like great discounts, everything like that. I got to take my wife for an anniversary dinner, and we only have to pay like $40 a plate, which is super cheap there because typically it's like at least 90 or 100 a plate in general. So, anyways, all that to say, I know Trav owns a Carter Club. I know he knows how to cook a good steak, good Wagyu tomahawk steak. I seen it, saw it on Twitter. So I said, "Yo, what kind of steak should I get? Have you ever heard of St. Elmo's?" And that's, we kind of started to interact there. But that was just a fun story. I just remember vividly. That was kind of the first time Trav and I really ever chatted at length, and it was about steak. So, full circle.
When I was watching on 4th of July, the Joey Chestnut Invitational, or no, that's not what it's called. It's called Nathan's Famous, the hot dog eating contest.
Yeah.
One of all the other competitive eaters, come on and they do the big announcement. Oh, this person's the blah blah blah. He once ate 68 tacos in 3 minutes. This person ate 9.5 pounds of Spam in 8 minutes, and all this kind of stuff. Let's see. Joey Chestnut once ate 17 pounds, a little over 17 pounds of St. Elmo shrimp cocktail in 10 minutes.
Good Lord.
17 pounds. Yeah. So anyways, I need to get up there and try some of it. I'm not sure I'm up for 17 pounds, but
it's a lot.
We'll see.
That's a lot. All right. Hey, guys, normally we do a Q&A. We are a little bit over an hour. So I'm going to say let's have at least – I won't answer one question. We'll pull one up, and then we'll get out of here. So go ahead. First question that gets in here, we'll answer. We'll get out of here just so y'all can say that I didn't, not do it because I know that's what would happen. Why didn't you do the Q&A? We always do Q&A. Yeah. Okay, so I'm waiting for the first question. We'll get into it, and then we will get out of here. Sometimes it takes a little bit. It lags. All right, good. OUDNA Bloodline asks, what are our predictions on Brent Venables' style of play? Now, I'm assuming he's talking about how aggressive he's going to be in his defensive calls. That's what I would assume that means.
I mean, he already said he was going to be in his press conference, right?
Yeah.
What was it? I sent it to Parker the other day because I was making fun of his athleticism on an Instagram video where he was playing pickleball, and it wasn't the most athletic move of his. I don't doubt he put one into the net, but physical, punishing, relentless, and suffocating. Physical, punishing, relentless, and suffocating. Now, a offensive coordinator was interviewed about Brent Venables and what the addition of him would bring.
Yep.
And he was interviewed in saying that Venables has a different scheme for every game. There are a lot of teams that you can watch a bunch of film on and you can pretty much figure out what they're going to do. It's just, if they're going to execute it to perfection against you. If they don't execute it well, you have a chance. But he said Venables looks different every time, completely different every time. He blitzes from everywhere. Todd Bates has 20 different play calls, whereas I believe the previous defensive line had like 4 or 5. That's what I was told. So tons of different movement, tons of different blitzes. And I'm not talking just pre-snap. I'm talking stunting. That's different. You're going to be blitzing from all over. I've talked to a bunch of the defensive backs that are excited saying, man, even I get to blitz, man. I haven't been able to blitz in, so long. I didn't think I was going to be able to blitz in college. And, I get to go get the quarterback. So anyways, it's going to look very versatile, very unpredictable. And I'm not trying not to use the terms that he did. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly the same. I think obviously on defense, the thing that I have heard is remember back when he was here, and certainly from what he's done at Clemson, is very multiple. You know, you're gonna see tons of different looks within the game, and to your point, Trav, from game to game as well. I don't think that we're going to see. I know that we're not going to see Venables sit back and let teams pick us apart without applying some pressure. So that we've become accustomed to seeing over the last couple of years. So from time to time, so I think that's going to be one thing. But I think overall, not specifically at the defensive level, but I think overall, you're going to see a team that's much more accountable for the little things. You're going to see a much more aggressive team, a much more disciplined team. I think one of the things that I had heard early on in the year, which was just I was flabbergasted just by the commentary that I'd heard. But in the first game of the year against Tulane, you have players on the defensive side of the ball that are checking themselves out of the game. I don't.
We talked about anything.
Yeah, I don't think anything to that nature is going to happen again this year. Going forward at all. So I think that accountability and that aggressiveness and that and that culture that BB brings to this program is going to be evident early on, and obviously throughout the season and throughout his tenure here.
We talked. I remember. I actually remember it was one of our first JP and Trav shows, because we really just started when the season started last year, and I remember Trav saying that about there were guys checking out. And like that, the fact that was even a thing was crazy. All right, last question. This will go really quickly. I think it's a really good question by Drew. Who does Dylan Gabriel compete his first touchdown pass to? Jason, go ahead.
I'm going to go off the cuff, and I'll say Braden Willis.
Okay. I will go further off the cuff and go Eric Gray.
Okay, running back.
I think that's further off. No wide receivers.
Yeah,
it's gonna look like the Kansas City offense back when they went like 9 games in without throwing a touchdown to a wide receiver. I think they were loading up Tony Gonzalez and whoever else, but they weren't throwing to wide receivers.
Now, if I wanted to go super off the cuff, I would say Daniel Parker, but I'm not. And I'm gonna say Theo Weiss. I think Theo Weiss will be his first touchdown pass when they open up against UTEP, right? We opened up against UTEP, is that right? Yeah. So, all right, well, it's been a fun show. Jason, man, it was great having you on, brother. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. A lot of fun.
Of course. And always, guys, Trav and I be here every week. We're excited to continue to go through the series. We'll talk about the quarterback and running back room next week. Obviously, we all know what we have in those rooms, probably as a starter, but it'll be nice just to go into depth on some of these rooms and what they look like, and we'll talk about that next week, and then we'll start to do defense, and we'll continue to go on and on. Got some big things planned for the show. Trav has some big things going on personally as well that we'll get into at some point down the road. But Trav, you got anything, man?
No, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Especially appreciate all of you that are active in the chat. You really drive the show. So I appreciate it. And thanks, Jason, for coming on with us. And we will see y'all next week.
All right, y'all. Boomer.
Sooner.